Sorry, we're starting a few minutes later than normal. But call this meeting to order. Everybody, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please take a moment of silence. Roll call, please.
18 present.
First order of business is the approval of the June 8th, 2023 County Board minutes. Is there a motion? Ms. Daly, Ms. Duncan. Any questions, comments, corrections, concerns? Seeing none, please vote. Brandy, can you vote on yours? Okay.
Oh, okay.
And who's the other one? And Phil, can you try again on yours? It doesn't work? Okay.
You want a voice? We have 18 ayes.
Next is proclamations and presentations. We have a proclamation congratulating the W.D. Boys Council of the Boy Scouts of America on their 50th anniversary of scouting in Central Illinois. Would the Scouts please come up to accept? From Member Rulin.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I hope it's appropriate for me to take the floor for just a minute, but if there's anyone here that doesn't believe in prayer or miracles, right over here is Matt and Sandy Jones. And Matt, through the grace of God and the help of great doctors and everybody else, has defied all odds the last 2 to 3 years. And if you're not aware of the case, but praise the Lord, and we'll continue to pray for you. And his daughter was just honored as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think Matt's no stranger to most people around this horseshoe. Thank you. Next up is a proclamation congratulating the Peoria Chiefs minor league baseball team on their 40th anniversary. Jason and Dan Kelch.
Okay, geez, sorry for that. All right, whereas the Peoria County Board wishes to congratulate the Peoria Chiefs minor league baseball team on 40 years of family-friendly sports entertainment. And whereas the Peoria Chiefs first began under the name Peoria Suns, playing at Minden Field as a California Angels affiliate in 1983. And whereas in 1984, the team changed names to the Peoria Chiefs, and in 1992, Minden Field was renovated and renamed Vanaken Stadium for longtime Chiefs owner Pete Vanaken. And whereas in 2002, the new Dozer Park opened its doors in downtown Peoria with a larger-than-life statue of Pete Vanaken welcoming visitors. And whereas the Peoria Chiefs are currently a Midwest League affiliate of the St. Louis Cardinals, the team was also affiliated with the Chicago Cubs for many years. I'm a Cubs fan. And whereas the notable alumni of the club are too many to name, but include Baseball Hall of Fame members Greg Maddux and Ryan Sandberg, manager Joe Madden, and award-winning players Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Mark Grace, Jody Davis, and Joe Girardi. And whereas the Peoria Chiefs have made a point to have a strong positive presence in Peoria County, made apparent through their donation of time, money, and materials to charitable services in our community. And whereas the Peoria Chiefs have consistently put an emphasis on improving the lives of Peoria area youth through events such as Homer's Reading Program and Homer's Kids Club, and inviting area youth teams to join players on the field. And whereas the 40th anniversary of the Peoria Chiefs continues its legacy of offering great baseball and family entertainment through promotions throughout the season. Now, therefore, I, James C. Dillon, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, dare hereby congratulate the Peoria Chiefs on their 40th anniversary. Dated this 13th day of July, AD 2023, James C. Dillon, Peoria County Board Chairman, Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk.
On behalf of the Chiefs and our ownership group, my staff, I'd like to thank everybody for this recognition. Like James said, it's been 40 years. It's crazy it's been that long. I haven't been here but about a fifth of those years, but we are glad to be a part of Peoria. It is important to me that we are part of the community and giving back. That's who we are. We're Peoria's team. We want to be here. We want to provide a family affordable fund for the next 40 years. So thank you guys for recognizing us. We appreciate and we are honored to be a part of this community.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. I had to take a picture of it from my very first job out of college was working for the Chiefs, and to have my name on a proclamation awarding them is something that I probably would never have thought as a 22-year-old working and actually spending the night at the ballpark, because the amount of work that they do for this community. There was a scout night actually at the ballpark on the big TV screen, and the entire staff spent the night there at the ballpark with the scouts underneath the moon, watching a movie on the screen. So some amazing things from both groups. So appreciate it. Member Salzer?
And we certainly thank the Vanaken family, and Pete of course was the original person who really helped us get the organization started here and so forth. But I also was told by Pete, and I know that Rocky, of course, walked in the shadow of his dad. But Pete, who I worked for on construction, told me it was Rocky that really saved and got professional baseball, solidly entrenched here in Peoria after they thought they were going to lose it.
Member Alcester?
Well, it's been a long, long time ago, but the Peoria County elected officials played the Tazewell County elected officials in a softball game. I mean, you can't imagine the amazing talent out there. And so I don't know if there'd be the energy or the desire to do something like that again, but we had a good time.
Thank you. And then a little off script, I just wanted to mention one other proclamation that is not on here. And for the sake of everybody, I will not read the whole entire proclamation. But want to thank Gretchen, Administrator Sorrell, the sheriff and his amazing, all of his top membership there, along with the city of West Peoria and the West Peoria Fire Department, all had a ceremony, which many of you saw on TV last night or in the news, recognizing the 12 brave individuals that rallied around, and it made national news. And the heroes that are our employees, plus the three, I just want to read their names for everybody so that they were recognized here. So 3 citizens took an active role and were good neighbors in this situation and were part of the team. Norman Johnson, Tristan Morris, and Dylan Lyon. Peoria County Sheriff's Office deputies, Joseph Fissering, Miles Winder, Tim Gilmore, and Lieutenant David Zook. And West Peoria firefighters Casper Soja, Zach Scudder, and John Harris. And then Limestone firefighters Alex Stutthammer and Alexis Mathewson. But to see these heroes, and they had a hero's welcome yesterday with a packed firehouse, and all the fire departments from around the community were there. And Country Financial presented the fire departments with a check as a hero's award. But it was an honor and a privilege to be around those heroes that saved 2 young kids, and the parents were there yesterday. So just wanted to mention there and have their names read into the record. Sheriff, do you want to add anything? So that was a proclamation, but we did it on site because there's never that many people and trying to get a schedule together. So all the awards were given out at that ceremony. Citizens' remarks, we have 2. Randy Kruzman, and the topic is the Hannah City Farm. Yep, if you come up here and speak into the mic.
I'm an organic farmer. Does the county own the land west of Hannah City that used to be called the old radar base?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to rent that and put livestock in it because it has a secure fence, and we have a lot of coyotes that eat sheep, and that place would be secure. And I can provide water, and now I think you pay to have it mowed. And if you'd have animals in it, it would be well kept, and of course no one could steal them because of the fence that's around it. And we've been through a lot of dry weather. And also, I guess you know about the county 4-H program where kids can get a loan to own animals. It could be a place for the 4-H to put animals there to keep your land looking good. If it would have animals in it, it would be cleaned up. It's growing up in brush in the fence and all through there. I think somebody mows the grass.
Randy,
So,
we'll
yeah.
take that, I think, into consideration. We have your number here, 229-6580.
That's right.
Do you have an email that you'd like to provide?
Yeah. Last name first, Newsman.
Can you spell that for me?
Yeah. KNUSSMAN, then Randy at gmail.com.
Well, thanks, Randy.
Yep. And
Anything else?
well, I could pay cash rent instead of you paying rent to have it mowed. And then the land would be available for 4-H kids to put animals there, or I can put animals there to keep it mowed. And the land would be better taken care of. It's good land. It's black dirt. And I think it's about 7 acres.
34 acres.
34.
Oh, okay. So the wrong there. Yeah, way bigger than what I thought. There's kind of a shortage, or goat meat is high, expensive. Lamb meat's expensive. We've been through a lot of dry weather. So there's a lot of potential for animals to be put there, and return would be way more than paying somebody to mow it with a lawnmower.
I think we'll take it into consideration.
Yeah.
We can't give you an answer
I know, I
tonight,
know.
or it would
I
have to
know.
be something potentially for an
Come back again.
RFP or an RFQ.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next, Joyce Blumenshine in the Heart of Illinois Sierra Club.
Good evening. Thank you to Chairman Dilling, members of the board, Joyce Blumenshine, Heart of Illinois Sierra. I'm here tonight just to give a brief update on the status with the carbon dioxide pipeline. Many of you may already know this, my apology, but for those who don't, I just handed a paper copy of the City of Peoria intervention document to the Illinois Commerce Commission, which the city filed Monday. That means they are participants in the case that is currently before the Illinois Commerce Commission in Springfield regarding a permit for the Wolf Carbon Solutions US LLC application for construction operation of a high-pressure hazardous carbon dioxide line, which will cut across pretty much all of Peoria County. So on June 16th, the company filed to the state, and then there's an intervener group, which I'm a part of. There's a citizen group called Citizens Against Predatory Pipelines, who has filed. Many other entities are filing. Just yesterday, Wednesday morning, there was the first hearing by the Illinois Commerce Commission. About 75 people were on it. Most people were concerned property owners. So I just raised this tonight to tell you that things are moving forward. There's a case calendar, and we have spoken before. I don't want to be repetitious, but we are asking the county, please consider two very important things. The first one is, will the county intervene in this case? It does not mean that you have to be for or against. It just means that you have a chance to make comments or request information if need be. This is such a serious issue for the future of Peoria. I just raised that tonight. The second request is that the county of Peoria consider the petitions from last month. We are still urging that you have a moratorium on these CO2 pipelines because the federal regulations are not in place yet. They're under review and will take 2 years. State regulations rely in great part for safety and almost completely on the federal. So thank you for your time. This issue is moving forward. The time to take action on the part of the county we ask and hope is now. Thank you.
And for the board's sake, for knowledge, council did attend the hearing the other day, and we will be intervening similar to the city with a neutral position, but so that we can gather data. And if you have any questions, I'd direct them towards staff or council. Next up is the consent agenda. Is there anything that would like to be pulled? Member Williams.
C6, please.
Oh, do I need to do it first? Sorry, I should have got a motion in a second first. Approve it and then ask for polling. Member Blair. Member Allison. Okay, now, what would you, C6?
C6.
By Member Williams. Member Ricker.
C16 and C23.
Is there anything else that would need pulled? Okay, seeing none, please vote. Or actually, is there any what? Well, you don't need roll call for that to have those pulled. I thought I was roll call for the individual ones. Yeah. So for the ones that are pulled, we have to do an individual roll call vote. But is there any questions, anything else that's on there that would like to be discussed? Seeing none, please vote. Okay.
Member Bryant.
Aye.
And Member Sauser.
I'm down for the night, so you're going to have to call me.
Okay.
I did remember to bring it, but I screwed up somewhere else. I will vote aye.
That is 18 ayes.
These will have to be voice voted. But the next is C6, a resolution from your Finance, Audit, and Legislative Affairs Committee recommending approval of an appropriation of the fiscal year 2023 budget from the Enterprise Fund for Headington Oaks to the Special Revenue Fund for Long-Term Care Services. Is there a motion? Member Williams. Member Blair. Member Williams.
Thank you. So I asked for a little time on this. Scott and I are going to be kind of tag teaming on this because I want to give a little background information. Obviously, this is kind of cut and dry, but we're going to be taking out, so there's an amendment at your desk. If you look under one, it says it's crossed out, and it's the part about first pay down the negative fund balance and then to save for the repayment, if you guys see that. So in digging into this a little more, this all kind of started, there were a couple of conversations with Scott and Heather, Scott Sorrell, our administrator, and Heather McCord, our CFO, about paying off the Wilhelm Bridge. And we don't have bonds on those. What are those called, Scott?
Those are debt certificates.
Debt certificates. So when we started talking budget, I asked if we could pay those bonds off, and of course or not bonds, but certificates, if we could pay those off, and we were not able to. So then I said, we had this extra money, why don't we just set it aside and let it collect interest? So we are unable to do that. Scott, can you kind of fill in there?
It has to deal with arbitrage, but whenever you have any type of debt vehicle, whether it be general obligation bonds, alternate revenue source bonds, or debt certificates, in the case of the debt certificates, we have to avoid arbitrage, which means if we're putting money away, you've got to make sure we stay within some parameters of the bond ordinance in terms of how much interest can be earned. That's specific to the debt certificates. It's not does not apply to the board's current strategy as it relates to the nursing home bonds, where currently you're levying 6 pennies of property tax. 4 of those pennies goes towards the debt service on the bonds we refunded last year. There's $50,000 of the property tax that goes to our contract for elder services with the Center for Prevention of Abuse, and then whatever's left goes into the reserves of the fund, and the treasurer invests those dollars so that when the nursing home bonds are callable in 2032, we'll have a nest egg to make a further down payment on the $11 million of remaining principal that will still exist in 2032.
Thank you, Scott. So the reason why I asked to have this taken out is because if we do pay this, when the bonds are callable in 9 years, we will only have $1.6 million to put down towards those $11 million in a bond payment. So that means that we will again be refinancing, and we will have probably an additional 9 years, 8-9 years left to pay on those bonds. But what I'd like to do, a couple of steps. The first step is, of course, I am taking this out. The second step is Heather is working to get a number on what we have in aged receivables that we believe that we're not going to be able to get. It's currently sitting at 3.7 million. She believes that that number could come down. So I want to wait until we find out exactly what that number is. She believes that's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 months. She's working with that vendor that we hired to try to collect some of those dollars. So that will be the second step. The second step will be that we, if the board approves, we will technically write those dollars off, which means then we'll be at zero. So everything that we collect from now until 9 years will stay in that fund. Our treasurer will invest the dollars, and we sort of figured out we could have somewhere around $8 million. So what I would like to do is write that off, and then in 9 years, we're putting the 9 years from now board in a position to potentially pay those bonds off. Obviously, we can't say what that board is going to do, but I think we could be in a position to actually pay those off. My goal all along has been to get out of this bond debt as soon as we possibly can. It's just a drain on the county, 6 pennies. So in 9 years, if we pay those bonds off, we have 6 pennies that we can either lower our tax levy or we can use that for infrastructure. We know that the tax is going to go away in several years. This could fill in that gap. So I just wanted to walk you through the steps of what I'm trying to accomplish here. And Scott or I can answer any questions, but this is going to be a several-step process.
Questions? Member Rulon.
I don't have a question, just a comment. This is the difference of 10 words in this resolution, but it makes the difference of about 18 million, 9 million to the good down the road, or still being in the hole 8 or 9 million. Add those two numbers together and you found out what Sharon Williams will save the county. I'm nominating her for Board Member of the Month for sure. Maybe Board Member of the Year. We'll see what happens during the rest of the year. Hopefully you get some competition for that. However, I think it's fantastic what you found here, and I applaud you, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to stick around for 9 years to make sure that payoff happens.
So Sharon,
Move to amend.
I need you to have the actual move to amend, this is what you have on here, because we still
Okay.
have not moved to this yet.
Okay. So do you want me to make a motion to
Motion
amend
move
it?
to
Okay.
amend.
I make a motion to amend it?
Second by Mrs. Daly. Further questions or comments on as amended? Member Daly.
I just can't possibly applaud Sharon enough for this. I have wanted to pay those bonds off since the day I got on this board. Now, I know that's a complete surprise to all of you because I only bring it up at least once a month. And what we will be saving taxpayers is phenomenal, phenomenal. So thank you, Sharon, for being so diligent in digging into this.
I just want to add that over the 20 years, we'd be paying $11 million in interest.
Thank you to Member Williams and all those that have worked hard to make this a priority. I know you've put in a ton of work on this. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's please vote on as amended. Well, no, voting to amend, and then we're going to have to vote on it one more time. Yes, as amended. Where this is a roll call.
Member Blair,
Aye.
Member Bryant, Member Coates, Member Daly, Member Dillon,
Aye.
Member Duncan, Member Alsusser, Member Groves Allison,
Aye.
Member Hare, Member Kelch, Member Phelan, Member Renault, Member Riker, Member Rosenbaum, Member Rulin, Member Salzer,
Aye.
Member Williams, Member Windish. That's 18 ayes.
Now back to the resolution as amended. Is there any other comments before we would vote on as amended? Tell me when you're ready. Okay. Roll call.
Member Blair,
Aye.
Member Bryant,
Aye.
Member Coates, Member Daly,
Aye.
Member Dillon,
Aye.
Member Duncan, Member Alsusser, Member Groves Allison,
Aye.
Member Hare, Member Kelch, Member Phelan, Member Renault, Member Riker, Member Rosenbaum, Member Rulin, Member Salzer, Member Williams, Member Windish. That's 18 ayes.
Next is C16, a resolution from your Infrastructure Committee recommending approval of a contract with Dewberry Architects, Peoria, Illinois, in the amount of $105,000 for the remodel of the Circuit Clerk's office. Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Member Ricker? Member Bryant? Questions, comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one Scribner's clarification while we have it. In the write-up, the reference in the scope was 1,650 square foot office space. We know it's about 8,600, 8,500. So we'll make that clarification. That'll make the cost per foot more reasonable for those people who look at $400 a square foot cost. But the one I really wanted, this was in Infrastructure Committee, and since Infrastructure Committee, there's been a significant amount of discussion and work done by our chairman and a few others to make some modifications to further clarify this one. So I'd like to ask the chairman if we could have an update on some of the modifications so all of the board members know what kind of the scope change moving forward.
So I'm happy to discuss, and I can, if I miss anything, Administrator Sorrell and the principal, Ms. Tracy Koger of Dewberry is here also for questions. So little backstory here. This is 8,500 square feet. So the conversation is, if anybody's walked through the courthouse, especially on ground level, you know we have major construction projects going on right now. But when you hit that corner, there's a lot of different offices right there. So there is some space needs in this county of moving some offices around. I think it's been no secret. that the treasurer has talked about needing some more space for flow of people through her office. So having some conversations, and I know Bobby has some files, or Clerk Spears has some files that need to get moved. There is no, and this has been one of the board's conversations about maximizing the space that we have and utilizing it properly. I think this will be also part of the reason why I'm excited later in the agenda to be bringing Mr. Eunice on for these different projects. So in this scope, when they do it, it's 8,500 square feet. So they will, in the contract, they meet multiple times and figure it out. I don't know what the space of needs is for the circuit clerk's office going forward, but there's potential there that not all that space would be needed. So there might be potentially some ways that we can shuffle some offices around, and nobody's agreed to anything because we don't know what the spaces are. But in this contract tonight is going to be asked to look at that space and see what they need. And if anybody else we've been talking about Orders of Protection needs new space, and they were going to go into Target next door. Well, Orders of Protection is actually part of, I believe it's a service through Bobby's office, but it is managed through the Center of Prevention and Abuse. So with all those files being moved, is there the potential to maximize those spaces and move Order of Protection in there with the clerk's office? I will give every elected official credit. They are very willing to open to the conversation and want to be a team player. And my concern was saying that we were going to move different offices in there is not accurate until the professionals come in and see what the space needs are. But it was going to be part of the conversation is when they sit down and interview the electeds and actually do a deep dive into the space. So coming up I don't know in the timeline or pipeline, but the reason Order of Protection is if anybody's ever walked through there, they have a very little tiny waiting room up front. And that is not a place to allow somebody that needs an Order of Protection to be sitting out in a hallway like that. So what we would like to do, and especially during tax season, when the treasurer has people standing all the way out around the corner. So walking those spaces, you can really start seeing where you can move some pieces around and maybe make this work. But that is for Tracy and her team to come in and meet with the individuals and talk about how this can work properly. But it's part of hopefully maybe killing two birds with one stone in that space and maximizing space, leaving some other spaces that we still need and having. But I didn't want to put in that is the direction that the team is being tasked with to go with. That's the task that our design team is going to have. But I don't want to put in any resolution saying that the circuit clerk's office will be two different spaces, because it might not be, but that is what the team is going to look at to see if they can utilize that space. I think I've hit on most of it, but I'm sure we can follow up. And the contract does need to be modified. I know council has some things, some I's to look at and T's to dot, but the general direction and the one that needed to be in there was the square footage. Scott did go confirm that. Mr. Little went and confirmed that for the square footage of that. So, and that's the thing about it is we have budgeted $800,000 for it, but it's hard telling by the time we get out to design what the cost is. But I think this is going to be moving in the right direction for everybody, and you maximize that space down there. But that's with Mr. Eunice on board and with Dewberry hired. That is for the professionals to figure out with coordination from the electeds. I hope I answered everything of where you're.
Yeah, I think so, and I appreciate your details, Mr. Chairman. I don't know what the right approach I think what I heard you state is we will have to amend or adjust the contract. Do we do this contingent of those changes, ask for approval, or do we need to do an amendment to this for that?
The contract is we're approving it in principle for the contract. At that point, it's the legalese back and forth of different things in the contract, but it's not us actually drastically changing the contract.
I just want to make sure we're following the right procedures.
But I think it's for those of everybody that isn't in infrastructure, about 8 years ago, there was a flood in Bobby's office, and there's been some other issues in Bobby's office. And everybody knows where we are at infrastructurally, and it's been a long time coming to get to this point to allow those people to in his office and our employees to have an office space that works for them and that hasn't get rid of the issues from the flood and some other issues that we've had in there. So, I mean, that's part of why we're bringing on Mr. Eunice to check on that. And that this is, I think by doing this, it's a good timing because these can in unison simultaneously work together and get us headed in the right project. And I think the clear directive, even at this meeting, has been assigned to staff and to Dewberry of what the board's intentions are. And it was important enough that Tracy with Dewberry even came tonight if there was any questions about. I don't think they know what they're getting into, and they've agreed to it for what we have. Mr. Ruin.
On reading this in the packet, I had some concerns about it, understanding that infrastructure's intent and direction to county administration and to legal counsel is more clear than what the current contract is, but with the assurance that Dewberry will rewrite attachment C to more clearly reflect that direction and to correct the square footage that this project entails. Having said that, I'm comfortable with where we're going with this, on the assumption that the attachment C would be rewritten to widen the scope.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add, just that, depending on how the vote goes, that is the direction of the board, and I will ensure, working with the state's attorney's office, that direction is executed.
Member Salzer.
Mr. Chairman, I just want everybody to understand, this has been in the works for about 8 years, and they've been pretty patient in the circuit clerk's office, and they have been very cooperative along the way. Other projects have stepped before them. For instance, we needed to do something in regard to the IT and the public defender. I'm trying to think of public defenders, and we moved them ahead of this particular project, and we are succeeding in getting that accomplished. So he talked about the flood that we had several years ago, and that's why, we knew we needed to do some things down there and so forth. I think recently, was it near the 4th of July, Scott, did we have another water problem down there in that area?
We had a minor one that was quickly resolved with really no issue, but yes, we did.
Okay. But anyway, I think they'll be cooperative with us over the past when we've needed to have some things done to help us balance the budget. I know that they've held some jobs open so that we were able to meet our budget and so forth. So I am firmly believe that we should go ahead with Dewberry at this time.
Thank you, Member Salzer. Just if there is any uncertainty from any board members, Tracy, not to put you on the spot, but I will. So just so that everybody, if you don't know Tracy Coker with Dewberry, the principal, would you just state that basically we have a clear understanding of what the expectations of the board would be? Any other questions? Seeing none. Voice vote.
Member Blair.
Aye.
Member Bryant.
Aye.
Member Coates. Member Daly.
Aye.
Member Dillon.
Aye.
Member Duncan. Member Alcesser. Member Groves Allison.
Aye.
Member Hare. Member Kelch. Member Phelan. Member Renaud. Member Riker. Member Rosenbaum. Member Rulin. Member Salzer.
Aye.
Member Williams. Member Windish. That's 18 ayes.
Next is C23, a recommendation from your Infrastructure Committee to repeal the existing access to county highway ordinance and adoption of a new Peoria County Highway Access Regulation Ordinance effective August 1st, 2023. Member Windish, Member Couch. Member Ricker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I asked this one to be pulled just for transparency. I've asked our highway engineer if she would provide some update, because this will change how landowners do business with the county when they need to put an access way in from a county highway into their property. And so moving forward, the landowners will need to understand that. I've also asked it may be appropriate to even put out a press release on this, just so we are very transparent in what we're doing and hopefully make Amy and Jeff's life easier moving forward. But if we could, maybe we could ask our county engineer to provide a quick verbal of what this ordinance is.
Amy, could you come to the mic?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this access, this is for parcels, access to parcels on county highways. We had an access. This is for if you have like a new residence, you want to build a house, and you have to have a way to cross the ditch to get into your parcel. And the existing ordinance that we're asking to get repealed, it was done in the late 90s. And the cost to the property owner was $650 for the highway department staff to install it. So it was all the labor and all the material and all the equipment rental to install this for the property owners. The fee is no longer covering the cost. The cost is considerably more, and with the material increased cost last year, it was even more than that. So we weren't breaking even on that. We were losing money on that. So the new ordinance that we're recommending for your consideration is to have the property owner install the culvert while they're, if they're building a house or whatever, shed, barn, having the property owner actually do the install work according to highway department standards. We'd come out there and we'd work with the homeowner, the property owner, to make sure that they understood the standards, but it would be on the property owner as opposed to being on the highway department. Once the property owner installs the culvert, it becomes the highway department's responsibility from there on out. So this kind of frees up our staff time so we can do other things on county roads. We've talked to other adjacent counties, and this is kind of like the best practice we have right now. So I'm happy to answer any questions for your consideration.
Questions to Amy? I would like to, Mr. Rosenbaum.
Mr. Chairman, the only question I have, will they be required to still put a galvanized culvert in, or would they be able to put like a double wall plastic one in?
So right now, we're still looking at steel culverts, but we've had some internal conversations as far as other types of pipes as per IDOT specifications. So we are looking at that as an option in some situations moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to thank you. Go for it, Member Windish.
I just want to clear up a couple things on it. I guess seeing that, thanks for Amy for working on this, but I guess I see this as a positive. This is just more to not to discourage anybody from doing anything, just to cover the cost and not to discourage anything is the way that I see it, but I'm definitely supportive of this.
And a big thank you to Amy and her team and to Member Windish. This is something I believe he brought up 18 months ago or 2 years ago to have the conversation, and everybody listened. And Member Kelch, I think, gave some input on this too, but this was really Matt's discussing with Amy of how can we make this where the county's not losing money and still respect landowners. So thank you, Member Windish, for bringing that forward. Any other questions? Member Rulon.
Amy, I think there would be some benefit to our townships following suit. They have the same problem, so I'm not sure what your communication path is, but I think every township road commissioner should be considering doing exactly what you've done.
And thank you. We'll share that information with them. If they choose to do that, they're welcome to have the model ordinance and do what any changes they'd like to do to that.
Member Rosenbaum.
Just another quick question. Will there be any cost for them to have you guys come out, or there's no permit fee or anything?
We're looking at a permit fee, a lesser permit fee that we could waive in certain situations. It's just to make sure they put it in right. We're not trying to.
What do you think
money.
that would cost roughly?
I have to look back into the agenda packet. It's in the agenda packet.
Any other questions or comments? Member Kelch.
Hey, Amy, I couldn't hear Paul, but did you let anybody know what the cost is to the county now that you did your figure, going from $650 to?
The cost now, we looked at the cost to put it in, it's over $3,000 per entrance to put one in at this time.
Yes.
Amy, how many entrances were we putting in a year?
Last year, we put in approximately 20 new entrances to give you a frame of reference on how many folks this impacts.
Any other questions? And I do believe Scott and our amazing communications team can put it out on social media and put it in a press release for that way it's out visible.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman, we'll do that.
Member Allison.
This definitely sounds like a good plan, but I do think it would be important to know what range of fee you're looking at. And we always hear from constituents about our fees, of course. So, I mean, just to follow up.
As far as them putting it in,
The fee that would
it
be-
costs us now with the materials and the install and the labor. It costs us about $3,000 to put in at this time.
But what kind of fee would be required for them to pay to have you come out to
The new
look at?
permit fee.
Yes.
There's some fees listed in the packet in the agenda briefing.
Sorry, I don't have that right. Fees would be depending on the roadway. If it's a residential or commercial, it's either 500 or 1,000 for those. And that's on page
4.3.
section 4.3.
Is that correct? I mean, I read that as access permit would be like what you're doing.
Yes.
That is the correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, is everybody Member Rulon?
Just a quick comment in case you hadn't done the math. Losing $2,400 on every one, we're saving $48,000. Well done, Amy.
Any other questions? Did you get your answer? Okay. All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Member Blair?
Aye.
Member Bryant?
Aye.
Member Coates? Member Daly?
Aye.
Member Dillon?
Aye.
Member Duncan? Member Alcesser? Member Groves Allison? Member Hare? Member Kelch? Member Phelan? Member Renau? Member Riker? Member Rosenbaum? Member Rulon? Member Sauser?
Aye.
Member Williams? Member Windish? 18 ayes.
Next, zoning ordinance and resolutions. This will be back on the computer, right? Oh, we've gone later than that, though. Okay.
We can try it. We'll try it. We will try it.
So maybe not after,
We'll
but
try,
we'll
though.
we'll see. Case ZBA 2023-0023. You can read it, yeah.
Case number ZBA-2023-0023, petition of Marilyn Strickfadden, a special use request from section 20-6.2.1.1.b of the Unified Development Ordinance. This section allows for a special use when a proposed land split does not meet the 40-acre minimum lot size in the A-1 Agriculture Preservation Zoning District. The petitioner proposes to divide 4 acres from the existing 38.607 acre parcel in order to separate and sell an existing residence and outbuildings from the remaining agriculture use. The parcel is located in Logan Township. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommended approval. The Land Use Committee concurs.
Member Rosenbaum. Is there a second? Member Daly. Questions, comments? Member Rosenbaum.
This is just your typical land split when some heirs are trying to sell off the house and the buildings and keep the farm ground.
Any other questions, comments? Please try to vote online. You should be able to.
Member Bryant?
Aye.
Okay. And Member Sauser?
Aye.
That is 18 ayes. Next, item number 2, a resolution from your Infrastructure Committee recommending approval of an independent contractor agreement with RJ Unis Incorporated, Peoria, Illinois, to perform capital improvement project management for a period through December 31st, 2026, and at an annual cost not to exceed $100,000.
Is there a motion? Member Daly. Member Rulon. Questions, comments, or? So I'll lead into this then and we can go after there. So Bob Eunice is in attendance tonight. If you haven't met him, I would encourage you to introduce yourself and you will meet one fantastic human being. So the board has seen most of our facilities here lately and taken a real interest in that. Plus, we've never had as many construction projects in the pipeline as that we do have currently going on in the pipeline or in the next few years. As we know, under COVID, we had to let facilities manager go. So the board felt that it would be very beneficial in this time to have an owner's rep and a construction person overseeing some of these projects because to Mark's credit, he was hired to do IT and facilities were taking a lot of time from that. So to have Bob in job meetings and move to other things, so the way this is structured would we still report. Mark has the budget still, reports to Scott, reports to infrastructure meeting, and Bob would act as our eyes and ears on construction sites, go to job meetings, make sure things are being installed properly, you name it. Bob has an extensive background in construction with even a construction management degree from Bradley in field as one of the finest carpenters that you would see, working from houses to industrial to commercial space. There probably isn't much Bob hasn't encountered in his time. So he's a fantastic choice for us. This is not a long term where we have offering health insurance and retirement. This is, he still has his business, will be fill in. So not every week is the same or the same schedule, I would imagine. But Bob is more than capable of juggling multiple projects, as I've seen over his years in the field. So it's a consulting business. It's all in at the fee that we've established of $125 an hour and a laptop, or not a laptop, but an iPad if Bob so chooses. So, and that fee, it's up to $100,000 in hours for the year, and that will be revisited, his fees on a yearly basis. And I believe this is what, a three and a half year contract. So we had some discussions of how we get there, and I know some people had a different views of how we would get there, but thank you to Terry, Mark, and Scott for meeting and having these discussions, and big thank you to Member Ruin for some suggestions and ideas and taking the time to meet there. So thank you, Member Ruin, appreciate it, and excited to have Bob join the team. So if you haven't, introduce yourself, and he will be getting close to know infrastructure committee. So Bob, if you wave your hand if you haven't met anybody. Any questions, comments? Oh, quiet. Okay, please vote. Third one up there somewhere.
Member Bryant
Aye.
and Member Salzer.
Aye.
That's 18 ayes.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to say that Bob's boys played Little League against my boys just a couple years ago, so we had some really good games.
Item number 3, a resolution from your infrastructure committee recommending approval of the reappointment of Amy McLaren to a 6-year term as county engineer effective November 10th, 2023.
Member Couch, Member Salzer. Now I see why Amy brought us a cost savings today. Any questions? So Scott, can you just, for the sake of the new board members, explain the process and the term and the IDOT reimbursement, just so that the new members understand? And just a refresher maybe for some board members that weren't around for the last time we had to make this appointment.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. The county board in all 102 counties appoints the county engineer. There are, in statute and noted in the agenda briefing, there's 4 requirements that your appointee is required to have. Amy meets all of those requirements, including being a registered professional engineer, having the appropriate educational degree and experience, and having successfully passed an examination and certification done by the Illinois Department of Transportation. The appointment is made for a 6-year term. This is actually Ms. McLaren's 3rd term that you're voting on this resolution. She is one of only 4 female county engineers in those 102 counties in the state of Illinois. Unscientifically, I believe she's the longest tenured of those 4 women. As part of the budget process each year, we participate along with over 90 counties in a salary reimbursement program where Illinois Department of Transportation tells us what the county engineer's minimum salary will be. You then set that, and in exchange for that, we get a substantial portion of that salary reimbursed through motor fuel tax. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Coach Salzer.
Mr. Chairman, I just, and I've been tied to many of the transportation, it used to be called transportation, now it's infrastructure committee, and Amy has reported to it, and she's been very, very good about keeping the committee informed. And I've known her for quite some time. She used to be a delegate to our labor council here in Peoria when she was not the engineer. And I've never asked her the questions of whether she went to Bradley locally or whether she's a local girl or anything, because, you know, we always hear about trying to hold on to our local people and so forth. So Amy, are you a Bradley graduate? Good. Are you a local girl? No, but I was adopted by Peoria. Okay.
Member Elsasser?
Well, living in a very rural district, there's nobody any more well-suited than to take phone calls than Amy for myself. And I even called her last Saturday. I think it was like at 10 o'clock in the morning. So she always answers. And I was driving down one of the roads, and I was just calling her to tell her how impressed I was with the work that they had done and trying to figure out, you know, what they had done. So she's very good.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please vote.
I had to think about it.
Member Bryant?
Aye.
Member Salzer?
Aye.
That's 18 ayes.
Not bad in about 80 minutes for what we did, but thank goodness a past board came up with the consent agenda, because we used to have to read every single one on with all these what was there, 29 total or 20 some total?
24, 25 this month, which is the most in roughly a decade, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, so great job, team. Great job. Next is miscellaneous and announcements. We'll start on Mr. Elsasser's side tonight.
Well, I think Santa Claus came early tonight, and Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Was it Danny, right? Danny. Thank you.
Member Salzer?
One thing I want to mention is the 74th Heart of Illinois Fair will begin next Tuesday. Now, I look over there, and I don't know whether the new members got invited to. Did you receive something from the Heart of Illinois Fair about our hospitality Monday night? And if you haven't called in, I think they said the deadline was like today, but if you call in tomorrow, and I'll give you that number, 691-6332, and just call out there, and if it's just phone message, leave your name and come on out. I think you enjoy it. Hospitality starts at 6:30 and the dinner will be at 7 o'clock. So we would enjoy having you. And if you get a chance to come to the fair, we hope you will. The other comment I'd like to make is this. I really was proud of how government worked in, I don't know whether it was New Jersey or Pennsylvania, but you remember that bridge that went down? They said they got that bridge back up and in operation in 12 days, I think they said. That shows you the government can work because people got together and they did it. And so the whole nation should be proud of that particular government getting the job done. And I think, we are pretty good at cooperating in this area. I don't know if we had a disaster like that, whether we could get it done that quickly, but I was just amazed that particular structure was rebuilt in such a short time and put in operation.
Member Ricker?
Well, I'm looking to be excited for next month's board meeting, but before I get too excited, I want to ask Mr. Little for a quick update for the new AV system for us, if we're still on schedule or if I should wait. So would you, just for the fun of the board and excitement, would you give us just a quick, what do you think we'll see when we come in here a month from now? I appreciate that. I think we'll all look forward to seeing that. It's been a couple years in the works. So anyway, look forward to the next month.
Member Rulon?
Just one quick comment. I have no doubt that hiring Bob Eunice is going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to our capital improvements list. But Bob, for any reason it doesn't work out, you don't know me.
And Administrator Sorrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Three quick announcements for the board. The last resolution you approved is actually the first step in a three-step process. We have to submit some paperwork to IDOT, and then there will be a second resolution here in a couple of months that you'll have to act on to complete the county engineer appointment process. Second, you'll see it in the update tomorrow, and Nancy will make adjustments to the meeting invitations. But for all committees that are normally convene on Tuesdays for the July 25th date, those are going to be conducted at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. The museum board will give their annual update, which they're required to do under their master lease and operating agreement. And then I'm sure John Morris will have some type of a program for us. Last but not least, you should have some information in front of you. If you don't, you will tomorrow. Many of you have inquired about when the main building at the health department is going to be demolished, or at least the demolition will commence. That is going to be Tuesday of next week, July 18th at 8 a.m. There will be information provided to you in terms of how you get to the site safely and correctly, if that's something you want to see and have time in your schedule to do so.
Then lastly, just want to thank the treasurer and the sheriff for being present, but I guess becoming chairman now, it's official. I've officially been served with papers. Not that the board's getting sued, but ZBA was getting sued, and so quite the interesting for my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old and my wife to wonder why a cop is knocking at the door. But the police officer was extremely nice and wonderful talking to the kids, so they thought it was actually kind of cool getting served. So, but it's official. I've been served papers. So, meeting adjourned.